Okay, ito yung process ko. This is the sequence of my process. The next thing to do, yes, is to identify sa process na yon, what data should I need, di ba? To gather, to analyze, para makapag-come up ako in the end sa potential improvement and to see the current performance. Kasi maraming data, pero which ones are relevant para sa project ko? And then, of course, after data collection plan, what do we need to do next? Siyempre, nung drawing ko yung process map, okay, when I drew the process map, I went to the Gemba, okay, I go to the area, and I listed down what data should I be looking at. Then, while doing so, I made some observations, right? May mga observations that are glaring when I went to the process. It represents the different wastes and gaps, di ba? So what should I do to list down those other observations aside from the data collection plan that I did? So meron tayong what? Yan, meron tayong waste walk results. We need to list down. Siyempre, pag pumunta ka naman sa area, hindi naman empty walk lang. Empty walk. Hindi empty walk ang ginawa mo. When you go to the area, marami kang makikita. Not just the purpose of drawing your process map, not just collecting data, but to see what is actually happening. So, may mga observations kayo. And from those observations, meron kayo ma-identify na quick improvement, tama ba? Which are called quick wins, di ba? From nothing to something. Kung example, meron kayo nakitang busted light, then a quick win can be a replacement of that busted light. If there's something missing, then you should provide that thing, di ba? If meron kayo na-identify na observation na wala pa kayong makitang quick win, then park it. Okay, park. Okay. Park it and dalhin natin sa analyze phase to see or sa improve phase to see what else can we do or will my other improvements and analysis address this already. Yan. So those are the things that we need to identify. Now, we are in the analyze phase. Okay. We are in the analyze phase. And in the analyze phase, may prerequisite. Okay, may prerequisite. What is the thing na galing sa measure phase na dadalhin ko sa analyze phase? Remember, nung ginamit ko yung mga tool, kasi lahat ng phases natin from define, measure, analyze, improve, control, konektado sila lahat. Like here, in defining rate of problem, when you went, di ba? When you went to the, oops, ayan, let me just get my, ayan, I got my pen. When you went to the, how do you call this? To the measure phase, ano ang dinala mo from define? Di ba ito? Yung sipok ko, ginamit ko, and I created a detailed process map from it. Diba? Ano ginamit ko sa define? Yung P. Yung P na yon na napaka-high level, tipong brew coffee, grind coffee, etc. hanggang sa serve coffee to customer. Yun lang yung nakalagay sa sipok mo, di ba? And then when you went to measure phase, yung P na yun, kinuha nyo sa define, dinala nyo sa measure phase, and you created a detailed deployment process map. Now, ano naman yung galing sa measure phase na dadalhin mo sa analyze phase? Data, we can be more specific. So remember, in-identify natin sa measure phase ang ating what? Oops. Ayan. Potential what? Potential CF. Ano yung CF? Potential CF. What's that? Potential, hindi, PCS pala. Potential causal steps. Tama? Ang galing sa measure phase na data that you will bring to analyze phase ay ang inyong potential causal step. Galing kayo sa detailed deployment process map. May mga steps doon, di ba? May mga steps doon na na-identify nyo. These are the potential causal steps. These are the process steps kung saan potentially nangyari yung problema or naging dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ng problema. So let's say for example, kung meron tayong sa detailed deployment process map natin na let's say potential causal step natin. For example, grind coffee. Yan ang napili natin. And then, ang dinala natin is what? Brewing. Okay, brew coffee. For example, yan yung potential causal step na galing sa measure phase. Dinala natin sa analyze phase. So, dito sa process steps na to, ito yung i-focus natin when we perform the analysis. And the analysis starts with what? RCA. What is RCA? Can you type sa chat box? Correct. Root cause analysis. Okay? Yung root cause analysis na yon can be different tools. Okay? We have different tools to identify what are the potential causes related sa process na to. Okay? Related sa process na to. So, ang pinaka-common natin dyan are YY and fishbone diagram. Correct. Galing. Si Renee, sabi niya brainstorming. That's the basis of YY and fishbone. These two are both brainstorming tools because inputs, okay, yung mga isasagot nyo o yung mga nakalagay sa YY or fishbone can be coming from the people performing the analysis based on their observation, based on the process history na nakuha nila, di ba? And based on expertise. So, yung mga tao who performs root cause analysis are those people who are either related dun sa process na ginagawa, Lean Six Sigma process expert or process experts, or an operator who executes the job, or a manager or supervisor of the specific process who knows these three. Okay, yun yung first tip natin. When performing YY or fishbone diagram, dapat we have people to perform brainstorming who can provide the following details. Okay? Okay. Now, sabi natin, the brain is scientifically designed or godly designed, kasi kung medyo religious kayo, ayan, to connect the dots, okay? People or our brain is designed to connect the dots and generate ideas. So, there are times na out of context yung analysis natin. And what I can give you today, kasi hindi tayo medyo lecture-based ngayon, workshop nga tayo, di ba? So whatever you learn in your e-learning, i-reinforce ko lang yun ngayon by giving you tips and tricks on how to use what you learned dun sa e-learning natin, okay? So how to use? So clear ko lang to. Tandaan nyo to ha, take note nyo to, observation, process history, and expertise. Okay, how to perform YY? Para hindi tayo mawala, okay? Para hindi mawala sa YY. Kasi nga, di ba? Our brain is scientifically designed to generate ideas. So, minsan nag-overanalyze tayo, nakakarating na tayo sa nakakasampung Y na tayo, hindi pa natin nakikita yung data, or nakakatatlong Ys pa lang tayo, nakita na natin yung data, or on the 5th Y, nakita natin. So, we wouldn't know. Kaya, instead of just using YY analysis, a question asking method, di ba? Parang, bakit ka na late? Kasi late ako nagising. Bakit ka late nagising? Kasi late ako natulog. Ba't ako late natulog? Etc. etc. Just asking why. Pero hindi siya constructive, di ba? Dahil hindi guided yung analysis mo. Different factors can be included in the analysis if you just use YY. Kaya na-invento yung fishbone. Okay, if I will just draw the fishbone diagram. Engineer po ako, hindi po ako artist, kaya pasensya na sa aking drawing. Ayan. So, ganyan yung fishbone natin, di ba? So, the arrows are here. Ayan. This is your problem statement. So, ano yung problem statement natin? So, much better if you add the complete process statement. Pero sa akin, isa-shorten ko lang muna ngayon. Lead time is greater than 15 minutes. Tama? Yun yung ating problem statement. Now, sabi natin, may guide na tayo galing sa measure phase. In-identify ko yung, kung meron ako na-identify na potential causal factor, ibig sabihin yung step, okay, galing sa process map, pero kang piniling step, yung problematic na step, yung pinulahan nyo, di ba? You put red dun sa process map. So, yun yung potential causal factor mo. Based on your Pareto, di ba? Sinabi ni, sino ba nagturo sa inyo ng define measure? Sir Lex or Sir Joe? Okay. Sabi ni Sir Joe, di ba? You can use Pareto to identify kung ilan lang talaga yung significant na potential causal factor. Tama ba? If it's tama, can you type Y, letter Y? Kung naituro, nabanggit yun ni Sir Joe during your define measure. So, di ba, parang sabihin, oh, ang dami-daming process step, di ba? Ang dami kong process step in the measure phase. 20 yun, lahat ba yung gagamitin ko for analysis? Of course not. You can use Pareto to trim down, di ba? 80-20 rule. So, get the 20% of 20, so that can be 4 or 5 ba? 5 times, so 4 potential causal factors yung kinuha mo galing sa measure phase. So, ang kukunin lang natin example ngayon, yung dalawa, yung grind coffee and brew coffee. Ulit ha, para lang ma-visualize nyo ha. Baka kasi medyo naliligaw na tayo, okay? So, remember, ito yung inyong process, detailed deployment process map. Diba? Tama ba? So, sa detailed deployment process map, na-identify ko itong dalawang to as potential causal factor. So, ito yung dalawang to. Sample lang, sample. Okay. So, ito ngayon, dadalhin natin. Ito during measure phase. Ito ngayon, dadalhin natin sa analyze phase. So, ang guide natin in the analyze phase, itong galing sa measure, yung grind coffee and brew coffee. So, kapag nag-fishbone kayo, lead time is greater than 15 minutes. Now, ang babasihan mo ngayon yung potential causal factor para maging focused yung analysis mo. Sa grind coffee, okay, ano kayang factor ang naging dahilan kung bakit yung lead time ay nag-exceed sa 15 minutes? Is it related to machine? Is it related to method? Is it related to measurement? Is it related to man-machine method material? Is it related to man? Or is it related to environment? So that's how you perform it. Step 1, kumuha ka ng potential causal factor. Ito yung process ng root cause analysis ha. So pagdating sa grind coffee, pag i-fishbone ko na siya, kukunin ko kasi yung potential root cause, tama? So, sa grind coffee, in terms of machine, ano kaya yung naging dahilan kung bakit yung coffee ko, yung pag-grind ko ng coffee resulted to greater than 15 minutes? Diba? Kukonect niyo yan kasi dito. What could have been the reason? Can you share? Ano kaya? So if I'll create an arrow here, so ano kaya in terms of machine? Bakit nagkaroon tayo ng lead time which is greater than 15 minutes? Can you type sa chat box ano yung mga nakikita nyong inputs? Okay, may sira yung machine. If we will put it in English, ayan. Machine malfunction. Okay, faulty or slow grinder. So, punta muna tayo sa bakit nag-exceed. So, pwedeng machine. Oops. Ayan. Pwedeng frequent. Okay, frequent machine malfunction. Now, bakit palagi tayong may machine malfunction? What could have been the reason? So, yun yung next why natin. 'Di ba? Outdated yung machine dahil walang maintenance, tama? So, frequent machine malfunction, so not maintained well. Tama yung mga sagot nyo. So, yung not maintained well can be your first PRC, tama? So, isa na yan. As a requirement daw, you have to identify 10 potential root causes. So, sa grind coffee, in terms of material, ano kaya yung potential root cause ko dyan? So, identify nyo rin. Oops. Ayan. Identify nyo in terms of measurement. So, what could have been the root cause in terms of method? Oops. Wrong pala yan. Pag ganyan. In terms of environment. So, identify nyo lahat ng dulo, okay? Lahat ng dulo ng inyong fishbone, so, not maintained well, kung ano man yung nadito, kung ano man yung nadito, or nadito, yun yung PRC nyo. Okay, yun yung potential root cause mo. So, can be in terms of method. Try natin sa method. In terms of grinding coffee, anong mali or what could have went wrong with the method kung bakit the lead time was greater than 15 minutes? Can you share our first why? Ano yung first why natin? In terms of method, how the grinding was done. Pwedeng, meron ba kayong gustong i-share? Ayan, sa chat box natin. In terms of method, bakit kaya yung method related to grinding coffee resulted to a lead time of 15 minutes? It can be process omission, diba? Process omission or incorrect, diba? Incorrect process step. So, bakit naging incorrect? Bakit incorrect yung pagpa-perform ko ng process step? Ano yung potential reason? Pwedeng lack of training? Or, sige, lack of training. Lack of training? Or hindi lang naman isa yan. Pwedeng may isa pa tayong reason. Oops. Oops. Let me just erase this arrow. May isa pang potential reason kung bakit incorrect yung step. related kay method pa rin, can be unclear yung procedure. Diba? So, yan. Meron na tayong dalawang potential root cause. So, it can be a lack of training or unclear procedure. Yeah. So, yung lack of training, pwede mo pa bang i-dig deeper to identify, diba? To identify the root cause. Yung unclear procedure ba, pwede ko pa bang i-drill down yan? Kasi pwedeng may deeper reason pa. Oops. Pwedeng may deeper reason pa kung bakit ganyan. Pero, ayan, pwede kasing meron pang isang reason. Hindi pa pala ito yung dulo. Hindi pa pala ito yung dulo. Meron pa pala. How to identify kung meron pa pala? Now, para malaman nyo kung titigil na kayo dun sa lalim ng analysis nyo, you have to identify or you have to remember that yung mga ma-identify yung root cause should be available, di ba? Data is available and can be gathered. Yun yung number 1. Number 2, paano ko malalaman kung titigil na ako ng analysis or dulo na ba yun, root cause na ba yun? If it can be controllable in your part. Kasi syempre, if that will be your potential root cause, i-validate nyo pa yan and ma-identify nyo in your analysis na, ay, out of scope pala or uncontrollable on our part kasi requirement yan ni customer. So, even if you found the root cause and you can control it, you can improve it, tama ba? You can just mitigate. So, kailangan ma-identify nyo yun para malaman nyo, okay, titigil na ako sa 5th why or sa 3rd why or sa 2nd why or kailangan ko pang mag-dig deeper. Okay? Lagi nyo tandaan, your root cause will always be either a man, material, machine, method, measurement, and environment that can be gathered, okay, data that can be gathered and controllable. Okay? Clear sa'yo? If it's clear, can you type crystal? Okay. So, at the start of our analyze phase, okay, may prerequisite ka. From measure, which is yung potential causal step para maging focused yung analysis mo. So, from that potential causal step, you perform root cause. Now, sabi natin, it can be YY through fishbone diagram. Yung iba, naggagawa muna sila ng YY na naka-tree diagram. So, parang ganito yung itsura niyan. So, if this is your problem, so, this is your first Y, ganyan yung ginagawa ng iba. Ayan. Hanggang sa they came up with yung dulo na. Okay, ito yung root cause ko. Ito yung PRC ko. Yung iba, ganyan yung ginagawa. Ako, I prefer, kasi yung YY naman nasa loob na ni fishbone. So, I prefer na, if i-fishbone ko na siyang direkta instead of creating this one. Di ba? Fishbone ko na siya kasi yun din naman yun eh. Naka-categorize pa siya into man, 5 M's, and 1 E. Man, machine, method, material. Okay. So, clear ko lang to. So, after performing your RCA through YY or fishbone, you have to what? You have to prioritize. Kasi ang dami ng root cause, di ba? Kung for example, I've identified 20 PRCs. Di ba? Potential root cause, ha? If I have 20 PRCs, how will I know kung alin dyan yung kailangan ko i-validate? Kasi after RCA, we need to validate the data. Tama ba? Lahat ba yon? Lahat ba ng 20 to i-validate ko? Remember, if you're already in the organization, every action that you do contributes to cost. Okay? So, lahat ng resources na gagamitin mo just to validate the data, the time, the machine, the tao that will help you to validate the data, to gather data, cost yun para sa organization. So, they prefer na yung validation mo ng data or yung experimentation mo will be optimized. Okay? Set your priorities. Alin ba yung potential root cause talaga out of these 20? So to help you do that, one thing you can use is Pareto diagram. Okay? So Pareto diagram will help you trim down this 20. Ano ba yung Pareto? Let's look at our slide. Ayan. Oops. Okay. So Pareto, sabi 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule. Vital few and trivial many. So kung makikita nyo dito, ano tayong parts? Ayan. If this is your Pareto diagram, yung lahat ng potential root cause mo, ihilera mo yan. Kung 20 yun, edi 20 yung bars mo hanggang marating ka dun sa dulo. Tapos, syempre, all of you who are experts are the ones who identified or came up with the 20 potential root cause na yon. Sample lang naman, it can be 15 or 20. However deeper yung analysis na ginawa nyo. So, lahat yung mga nasa dulo sa fishbone, identify nyo 20 yun. Lahat ba yun kukunin ko? Of course not. Ipareto mo. Like what you did in identifying the potential causal steps, ganun din yung gagawin nyo when you go to identifying the potential root cause. PRC sa analyze phase. Okay. PCS naman, or potential causal step, in the measure phase. Step, potential root cause. Okay? So, pag nakita nyo, okay, 80-20 rule, 80-20 rule. So, lahat ng na dito sa left, yun ngayon yung matitirang PRC na kailangan mong i-validate. Gets? If it's gets, can you type G? Okay. If you have questions, you can ask questions, ha? Okay, going back. Okay. So, meron na tayong PRC. Diba? At na-prioritize ko na. Na-prioritize ko na kung alin yung PRC. So, kung example, at the start, I have 20 PRC. Ang na-identify ko lang na priority is 5. Okay? Now, yung 5 na yon, kailangan, anong next nyo kailangan gawin? You need to validate. To validate using graphical tools. Sabi natin, di ba kanina, paano ko malalaman kung saan ako matatapos sa fishbone, kung alin talaga dun yung root ko, yung potential root cause? If, ano nga yung dalawang tips na binigay ko sa inyo? How to know when to stop kapag nag-fishbone tayo? Ano nga yung dalawang yon? If data can be gathered, tama? Or data is available. And if, what? It is controllable. Imagine, yung 5 ko na identify na priority PRC, hindi ko kayang i-represent sa graphical tool. Sa palagay niyo, madali niyo siyang ma-analyze? Of course not. Diba? Kaya, importanteng i-consider niyo itong 2 factors na to para malaman niyo kailan kayo titigil ng analysis niyo sa root cause root cause through YY and fishbowl. Okay. So, validate using graphical tools. Meron tayo in your workshop, okay, in your output or digital project that you have to create your validation table. So, after step 1, RCA, step 2, identify PRC, step 3, prioritize, step 4 is validate. Diba? So, validation table, anong itsura niya? Naibigay na ba sa inyo how a validation table looks like? Or hindi pa? So, if hindi pa, let me show you. This is what a validation table looks like. Ayan. So, yung validation table nyo contains yung napili nyong root cause. Okay. Ito yun. Yung PRC, after nyong ipareto, di ba? Ito na yung PRC. Pero kung konti lang naman yung na-identify nyo na PRC, di huwag nyo nang ipareto. Okay lang naman. So, sa PRC na na-identify ko, how will I validate it? Or how will I present it in a graphical analysis? Kailangan ko ba ng box plot? Kailangan ko ba ng time series plot? Scatter diagram? Ano pa ba? Time series? Histogram? Kailangan ko ba nun? So you have to create your validation table. Required ang slide na to, itong table na to, in your output. And then, of course, aside from inputting the validation method, you have to provide a conclusion. Is my analysis valid? Totoo ba? How will you know if it's valid or invalid? Or what does it represent? Valid, ibig sabihin, this potential root cause really affected your Y. Ano nga yung Y natin? Lead time is greater than 15 minutes. Yun yung problem natin, di ba? Lead time is greater than 15 minutes. So, is it valid? Naka-apekto ba talaga tong PRC na to? Yes. O, di valid siya. Based on my analysis, naka-apekto yung peak hours doon sa lead time ko. You can consider it as valid. Okay, that's how you create your validation table. Okay. Umpisahan natin para mas maging adept kayo on how to use tool. So, i-retype ko lang yung PR. Meron tayong potential PCS. Okay, meron PC. Okay, nasa analysis na tayo. Meron akong RCA na ginawa. From the RCA, na-identify ko yung potential root cause at pinrioritize ko. So, next na is validation. Yan. When we validate and when we present graphical tools, lagi nyo tatandaan yung ating formula y is equal to function of x. Para hindi kayo malito kung alin kapag di ba, in all our graphical tools, we always have an x and y axis. So, whether it's a scatter diagram, Pareto, or box plot, lagi kang may x-axis and y-axis. So, yung y is equal to function of x will tell you, alin ba yung ilalagay ko sa y-axis and x-axis. So, kung for example, yung aking data is, for example, ang try natin mag-validate isa, PRC1 na na-identify ko, for example, yung kanina, not well-maintained machine. Diba? So, identify ko yung X and Y dyan. Yung Y ko dyan, ano yung Y ko? Y is always, okay, in your case study lead time is greater than 15 minutes. Yun yung Y ko. Now, ano yung nag-contribute para maging or para mapatunayan ko na lead time is greater than 15 minutes? What are the factors that contributed to it? What are the potential root causes? If it's not a well-maintained condition, it can be machine condition, tama? Before you graph it, you have to identify, is my data quantitative or qualitative? Sa lead time ko, ano yung data na to? Is it qualitative or quantitative? What do you think? Yung lead time is number. So, quanti. Correct ba? Correct? Ayan, correct. So, how about machine condition? Is it quali or quanti? Okay, it's quali. Okay. Now you know quanti, quality, the condition. So, definitely, hindi siya scatter diagram. Hindi din siya time series kasi isa lang naman yung time definition natin. So, I would use a box plot for that. Bakit? I want to compare kasi yung machine condition if it's well-maintained or not well-maintained. Tama ba? So, yung Y natin dito, palagi, okay, lead time. So, 15 minutes, tama ba? 15 minutes. So, yun yung Y ko. Yung X ko can be well-maintained, di ba? Type ko lang para mas madali. Sige. Well-maintained. And yung isa, not well-maintained. So how will I present it using box plot? So how to draw box plot? It can be yung well-maintained. Na dito siya. Yung not well-maintained. Na dito siya. Tama ba? Ibig sabihin, may data. Yung well-maintained, mababa sa 15 minutes yung coverage ng data ko. Yung not well-maintained, mas mataas sa 15 minutes. So if this is how your box plot looks like, is it valid or invalid? What do you think? When we are validating the data, dalawa yung gusto nating i-prove. Una, nangyari ba siya? Okay. Nangyari or occurrence. Diba? Nangyari ba siya? And you want to prove, did it affect my Y or yung lead time in our case? So yung dalawang yan, kailangan mong i-prove. If your answer is yes, dun sa dalawang question na yan, then it's valid. Okay? So una, nangyari ba siya? Yes, kasi meron akong data na nakuha. Did it affect my Y? Yung lead time ba ito tumaas nung nagbago yung machine condition? Nung well-maintained, ito yung lead time niya. Nung not well-maintained, tumaas yung lead time niya. So, the answer for these two, yes. The answer for this is yes then. So, in effect, ang result nito, this is a valid root cause. Tama? So, that's how you will present sa inyong case study. How will your case study slide look like? So, kung ito yung inyong slide, okay, meron kang PRC1. So, state nyo kung ano yung PRC mo, yung na-identify yung potential root cause. Show here your graphical representation. Okay, it can be your box plot. Ayan. And then, show here your conclusion. Sa baba. Yan, is it your explanation, blah, blah. Then, it's a valid root cause. Okay? That's how you will create your slide, okay, your project when you do the validation. So dun sa part na to, you can either, let me just show you in a bigger, so di ba yan, PRC ko, PRC 1. This can be the table of your data. Tapos this can be your graphical analysis. It can be a bar graph or a time series plot or Pareto, whatever. Thus, this is your conclusion. Okay? If it's okay, can you type K, letter K? Okay. So after that, try natin yung isa pang tool. I'm assuming nagbasa tayo ng e-learning kaya hindi ko na masyadong in-explain sa inyo yung box plot. Pero if you want to see, then okay. Just to interpret what a box plot is. So meron tayong box plot and whisker plot. Ito yung box, yung whisker is yung paa. So if you look at this one, ayan. This is the anatomy of our box plot. If in a year, meron tayong quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, yung January to March, April to June, July to September, October to November, in a box plot, we have quartile. So quartile, ibig sabihin, the data is divided into 4 parts. So yung first quartile natin represent 25% of your data. Okay. Second quartile, 50%. Third quartile, 75%. And fourth quartile, 100%. So kung yung box nyo, tumapat ngayon between first and third quartile, ibig sabihin, 75% of your data pababa, ayan, are represented. Okay, are represented. So yung gitna, it will be your median. So ibig sabihin, ang mga data nyo, naglalaro lang dito. So if this is, sample lang if in your box pa this is 15 minutes, so does it mean yung data ko ay below 15 minutes? Yes. Okay, so pwedeng tumapat yung data nyo dito, yung box plot. Okay, kung meron kayo makitang ganitong data, that can be an outlier data. Okay. So that's how you look at the box plot. Madali lang naman, napaka-basic lang ng itsura or ng visualization of your data. Okay, so for example, if this is your mean, oops, yan. If this is your mean, ibig sabihin mababa yung data mo, or kung nandito yung mean ko, mataas yung data mo. If you will look at comparison here, tignan nyo ba? Ayan. So, our data is, pakihan ko Yan. So, compare niya ngayon yung growth, diba? Yung growth ng magkakaibang fertilizer. So, from walang fertilizer to may grow fast and super plant of fertilizer, ito yung nakuha nilang data. So, na-compare niya. After 3 months, ito na yung height. So, sino yung mas mabilis lumaki? Diba? Sino yung mas mabilis lumaki? So, ito makikita mo, pinakamabilis si grow fast. Tama ba? So, that's how you look at a box plot. Next. Meron na tayong PRC1. Try natin isa pang PRC. PRC1 natin, which is not well maintained. Tama ba? Not well maintained is what? A valid? Valid siya. So, punta natin yung PRC2 natin. Ano yung identify natin yung PRC2 kanina? Ano yung PRC2 natin kanina? Balikan ko lang Ayan. May nag-type. Not enough training. Not enough training. So what you can do, you can present, di ba? Anong gusto nating i-prove? 1, nangyari siya or occurrence. And 2, ay number 2. 2 is what? Did it affect your lead time na greater, which is greater than 15 minutes? Okay? Or did it result? So not enough training. How will you present it? You can present it with a box plot din. Tama ba? Yung not enough training, identify natin na ano yung Y natin. Y is lead time greater than 15 minutes. F natin is what? Training. Training ano? Training status ba? So, pwede mong gawing box plot. Tama ba? Yung trained versus well-trained. Or, you can present a matrix. Table siya. Mamaya siguro makikita mo yung in our improved phase how matrix looks like. So if I will draw it, ayan. Gusto mo kasing i-prove na wala siyang enough training. Tama ba? So pwedeng dito nakalagay yung name ng inyong employee. Tama? At ito yung mga required trainings na dapat meron siya. Tama? So if training on safety or training on what else? Procedure or grinding, for example, grinding or welcoming customers. Sample lang. So meron akong 3 training. So itong si Alice, meron siyang training na ganito, meron siya, meron siya nito. Okay, complete yung training niya. Si Ashley to. Wala siya nito. Kaya pala, when I look at a graphical analysis, kasi naka-table lang yan, di ba? So, i-compare nyo ngayon. Can be a bar graph or a histogram na dito si lead time. Tama? Na dito si lead time. At na dito yung si Ashley. Type ko lang. Ito si Ash. Ito si Becky. Ito si Fred. Ayan. So ito yung time ni Ash, Beck, and Fred. So makikita nyo. Oops. Ano nangyari? Ayan. Makikita nyo. Si Ash. Ito yung lead time niya. Okay. Si Beck, ganito katagal niya i-perform. Si Fred, ganito. So, sino yung proven na matagal mag-perform? So, makikita nyo, dito, si Beck pala to, si Beck. Hindi lang pala si Ashley. So, wala din siyang training, wala din. So, when you compared, kung ito yung lead time ko, nangyari siya at naka-apekto siya sa lead time, check. So, valid siya. So, that's how you analyze it. Okay? Try natin another PRC para ma-try natin lahat ng graphical analysis tool on the context of our yellow belt. So, kuha tayo ng PRC 3. For example, lead time, ano pa ba? Yeah, lead time is lower in peak hours. Example, peak hours. So, kukukunan natin yung y. Ano yung y natin? Lead time is greater than 15 minutes equals a function of x. Ano yung x natin? Time of the day, tama? Kasi yung peak hours. So kung titingnan natin, i-drawing natin yan, how would it look like? This one. So ito yung y natin. So ito yung lead time. Peak hours. So tinatanong niya, mas matagal daw i-brew or i-grind yung coffee kapag peak hours. So this, yung x mo can be time of the day, tuwing 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Or it can be day of the week. Di ba? Can be day of the week. Or week of the year. So makikita nyo dito, nung January, ganito siya. Nung February, nung March, kung that's month of the year, or nung week 1, ganito yung lead time niya, nung week 2, nung week 3, or can be nung 8 o'clock, di ba? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock. So you can present that data. It can be in a time series plot. So how will you do it? Diba? In a time series plot can be, let me just draw. Ayan. So nung 8 o'clock, yung lead time ko nasa 15 minutes. Nung 9 o'clock, 10 minutes sample. Nung 9 o'clock, ito siya. Nung 3 o'clock, ito siya. So when you draw your time series plot, makikita mo. Diba? Kapag alas 9, gising ng mga tao, mas matagal yung lead time. Kasi peak hours natin, 9 a.m. So it's valid. So that's one thing you can do for a time series plot. What else can we? Try pa tayo ng isa. Guys, ito yung mga factors. Huwag nyo naman masyadong gayahin pag nasa workshop na kayo. Try other data that you can use. So, gusto nyo ba magbigay pa ako ng example o ayaw nyo na? Kasi baka maubos na yung pwede nyong ilagay sa workshop nyo. Try isa pa natin. Try pa tayong isa pa. PRC4, for example. Ano pa bang PRC4? Brewing time. Ayan. Sabi niya, mas matagal daw i-brew ang kape, mas matagal yung lead time. Okay, they want to compare, di ba? Lead time, lead time is higher, di ba? Dahil meron tayong slow brewing time. Yan, example natin. So, meron slow brewing time. Yung Y ko pa rin, diba, LT is greater than 15 minutes. Diba, equals, ano yung function of X ko? Brewing time. So, pag tinignan nyo, parehong time yan. So, parehong quantity. Tama? Ito, quantity din. Ano gagamitin ko to compare? So, you want to compare if related sila. Kapag ba mas matagal yung brewing time, mas matagal ba yung lead time? Diba? So, what you can do, let's check. Okay. Let's draw it. Kung ito yung aking lead time, ito yung brewing time ko, what I can use is scatter diagram. Okay? So, if it's your brewing time, it's your lead time, marami akong tuldok. Tuldok. Ayan. Those are the observations that I have. Okay? Gusto mong patunayan kung did it occur? Yes. Kasi may data ako. Did it affect lead time? Makikita natin. So, sa scatter diagram, how to interpret? So, meron tayong tinatawag na correlation o yung relationship ng two factors. It can be positive or negative. So, if I will just draw positive correlation, negative correlation. A positive correlation will look like this. A negative correlation will look like this. Okay, ibig sabihin ng positive correlation, directly proportional. Ano ibig sabihin ng directly proportional? Ibig sabihin, as X increases, Y increases. So, habang tumatagal yung brewing time, kasi ang X natin yung brewing time, tama ba? As X increases, Y, yan, Y increases. So, habang tumataas daw yung brewing time, halimbawa ito, 2 minutes, nagiging 2 minutes din yung lead time, o naging 8 minutes, o tumaas din yung lead time. So, it's a positive correlation. Kapag ganyan yung analysis nyo on the data that we have, positive, as X increases, Y increases, nakaka-apekto pala kapag mabagal ako mag-brew ng kape, mas tumatagal yung lead time ko. Then this is a valid root cause. Pag naman Y, negative correlation, habang tumatagal ako mag-brew, bumibilis yung lead time, kung mangyari man yon, invalid. Kasi ibig sabihin, mas maganda pa na tumagal yung pag-brew. Ibig sabihin, mas mabilis yung lead time or completion ng isang buong process ko. So, in the data that we have right now, okay siya. Valid siya kapag positive correlation. Okay, clear tayo? That's the Pareto diagram. So, we've handled yung time series. Okay. Ano pa? Ano pa yung na-capture natin kanina ng mga graphical tools? Can you type sa chat box? Pa yung mga graphical tools na pinresent natin. Okay, we've identified the box plot. Ano pa? Okay, scatter plot. Ano pa? Okay, bar. Nakapag-bar din tayo. And Pareto, yung histogram hindi natin na-capture. Histogram is more like a bar chart. Kaya lang walang gaps. So, how would a histogram look like? So, if this is your... So, meron kang... Walang gap. Okay? Histogram can be like this. Bakit walang gap? Kasi itong data natin, instead na one specific data, di ba in a bar graph, may space yan. Kasi it represents a population. So kung ito, ilan ang pumatak sa 5 years old? Ilan ang pumatak sa 10 years old? Ilan ang pumatak sa 15 years old? Or 20 years old? Ganito kadaming tao. Person to. Okay? In histogram, interval siya. So, ilan ang 0 to 5 years old? Ilan ang 6 to 7 years old? Ilan yung 10 to 12 years old? So, imagine kung merong space to, kung katulad siya nito, so 0 to 5, may space ka, malamang ito 7 to 8. Ito 6 to 7, wala kang observation. Kaya in histogram, walang gaps. Kasi it represents an interval. Yun lang naman yung ano nun, yun lang ang count nun. Okay? Okay. So what else? Aside from Ayan, na-capture natin lahat. Okay. So that's how we do the analysis of our data. Step 1, okay, yung prerequisite. Tama? Ano yung prerequisite? P, what? P, pasensya na paulit-ulit ako ha, kasi it has been proven that retention can be higher if we repeatedly recall our learnings. So PCS, correct. Potential causal step from measure phase. Okay. So para pag pumunta tayo sa analyze phase, we can perform 1, RCA, based dun sa potential causal step natin. 2, we can identify the PRC. Ano yung PRC? What is PRC? Potential root cause. Correct? Very good, everyone. Thank you sa lahat ng mga nagre-respond sa ating chat box. Okay. Kapag masyado tayong maraming PRC, okay. Lagyan natin ng tips to. How to perform PRC? So it can be YY or fishbone, tama? When to stop? When to stop? If you deem that it is controllable and data can be gathered. Sa fishbone, sino dapat ang involved na mga tao? So, yung mga related sa process. Okay. And kapag nagbe-brainstorming tayo, okay, pag nagbe-brainstorming tayo, ano ba yung mga information required na input natin? So, yung mga ilalagay natin sa fishbone YY can be observations, can be related to the process history gathered, or based on the expertise ng mga taong involved. So, yan yung basihan para makapaglagay kayo or makapag-input kayo sa fishbone. And when to stop? Okay. Now, after nun, pag na-identify nyo na, nakapag-root cause analysis na kayo, then may PRC ka na. Kung masyadong madami, diba? If too much, what to do? If too much yung potential root cause natin, masyadong madami siya. How to trim down? Yes, we should prioritize. Using what tool? Correct. Pareto. Very good. Galing ah. Ibig sabihin, nakikinig. Okay, napareto na natin. What's the next thing to do? Meron na akong PRC, na-trim down ko na. Okay, ang output ko already trimmed down. So what's to do? Correct, validate. So how to validate? Using what? Using what? Graphical analysis. So ano yung tips? Laging tandaan yung y is a function of x para hindi kayo maligaw ng paglalagay kung alin ba yung ilalagay ko sa y-axis at x-axis na data at hindi mawala yung focus nyo dun sa analysis. So, if possible, identify nyo rin kung quantitative or qualitative para you would know what's the correct tool to use based on your type of data. And in validating, what are the tools that we can use? Time series. What else? Histogram. What else? Box plot. What else? Bilis pa ako mag-type kaya hindi kayo makapag-type sa chat box. Okay, scatter, correct. Or scatter plot, correct pa rin. What else? Yan yung pwedeng matrix in a table, pero ipe-present nyo pa rin sa in a bar graph. Okay, it can be a matrix or table, pero mas preferred natin in a graph pa rin. So it can be bar graph. Yan. Yeah. So those are the graphical analysis. Paano nyo malalaman kung valid siya or invalid? Guys, para malalaman if valid, bakit kailangan i-perform, okay? If it really occurred, diba? Ibig sabihin, may mapipresent kang data. And if what? Okay, correct, Joshua. If it affected the Y. Okay? So it's not necessarily always lead time, di ba? Okay? So if yung nag-occur ba siya? Yes, kasi na-present ko siya in a data. Did it affect my Y? Yes. So then it is a valid root cause. Okay, after na-identify ko na valid siya, so i-present nyo na siya in a validation what? Step 4? Step 4. Okay, correct. Represent it in a validation table. Yun lang. Dala tayo sa analyze phase. So, time check. What time is it na ba? Let me look at my taskbar. Oops. Ano nangyari? Okay. Okay. So, done na tayo with our fee analysis phase. So, in your workshop, kailangan nyo na validation table. Ayan. We've also shared with you dun sa ating e-learning, yan, when best to use our graphical tool. Okay na tayo. Okay na tayo sa analyze phase. With that, I think we can proceed with your analyze phase workshop. I will give you time to ask questions. Meron ba kayong gustong i-ask na questions pa related to analyze phase? And I will give you until 3 p.m. to check your digital project with your team and complete para may ma-output kayo for analyze phase. Kung ano man yung maumpisahan nyo, para lang habang fresh pa yung knowledge, mai-apply nyo na agad sa digital project nyo or sa case study nyo. After nun, by 3:05, let's start the improve phase. Would that be okay? If it's okay, can you type O, letter O? Okay ba tayo dyan? Okay. May question pa ba? Ayan, yung deliverables po ba namin, yun na po ba yung final or pwede pa po namin i-revise before we submit? Yes, Renee. Nag-private message na tapos in-announce ko pa rin yung name. Sorry naman, ayan. Oo, actually nga, as we always say, sa mga gintong workshop natin, mas maganda, ginagawa nyo na yung deliverables nyo. Tapos, if may chance na magpa-check na. Kasi, we will give you a specific time and date kung kailan yung final submission nung inyong digital project or case study or deliverables. And for that, graded na yon pag dumating yung panahon na yon. So, habang hindi pa final, parang mag-send kayo kay Sir Joe, kay Sir Lex, Sir, pa-consult naman po, ito po yung output namin for analyze workshop. Ayun, you can be guided. Pwedeng mamaya later kapag before we start, 3:05, we can check how you siguro 2 groups kung may groupings kayo, or a team dyan who can volunteer. We can check how you did your analyze phase. Pwede naman. Okay. So any questions pa, guys? May other questions pa ba kayo?